Hi everybody, welcome back to Addiction, Alcoholism, and the Three Principles. I'm Greg Suchy, and back again with Harry Durbitsky. And today we're joined by Judy and Joy, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because it's something that we've touched it, but we haven't really delved into this topic yet, which is how to transform those relationships that we have with people who are still in active addiction. You know, how do we handle that? And really, ultimately, it comes down to how do we best support them too, but while taking care of ourselves, you know. So I think it's a really important conversation to have. And I know Harry invited them to join us, so I'd like to pass it over to Harry, and then we'll get this thing going.
Thanks, Greg. One of the interesting aspects that I found with Judy and Joy, besides the wisdom and their unique field of helping people who really are confused with dealing with addiction issues, that are the caregivers, etc. But also the importance of the personal and professional relationship. Both of those are what the three principles are about. We're not just professionals providing a service, but as we get wiser and more content within ourselves, we naturally give a higher level of service and wisdom to the others who are open to listening to us. And in regards to that, I want to share a story, personal story, Joy and Judy. When I got divorced, my oldest daughter was very, very angry with me. And in that context, there were years and years and years of where we really didn't communicate. Although she always said, "I love my dad," we didn't really communicate. And her grandmother was extremely wise. She had had a spiritual experience like Greg had had before she entered into the Three Principles world. And she said, "Just wait, just be patient, just wait, just wait." And I waited and waited. And nothing really changed. And then one day she found sort of her soulmate. That Maggie was just an incredible human being, amazing human being. And the two of them just melted together like butter and whatever it is that they, and immediately my daughter became much more content. Not only content with all the outside stuff within herself. And the moment she became content within herself, because of this relationship that she had, this was the piece that was missing in her arsenal to have that happiness and contentment, because she knew about the other. But when that happened, they came together, and immediately our relationship changed like that. It wasn't really me. It was just once she found that power of what she needed with another person, and that love. And that's the key ingredient to a relationship, the amount of love that you have between each other. And so within that, she's blossomed. In fact, after this, I'm going to the park with her and Maggie. Her name is Nick. And we're going to have a nice afternoon together. I'm going to give her some corned beef and so on and stuff like that. But the quality of her life just zoomed together when she connected with this other outstanding human being. And thus her ability to work was content. Her ability to share with others were content. And her whole life just took off after that. And to be honest, both of their lives took off. So with that in mind of how important the personal love that you have when you come together with another person, how it helps you professionally to help others in areas that they're suffering in. Could you maybe start with that, or whatever you feel like?
Well, it's a very interesting question, actually. And I feel that definitely the love that Joy and I share with one another creates a container for people where we're able to really hold them in that love. And often that comes out as humor.
Mhm.
So we laugh a lot. Both of us laugh a lot just daily in our lives. But I think we really bring that lightheartedness to our work with people.
Yeah.
And it can be, you know, in a very natural way, it can be very transformative.
Mhm.
Just sharing laughter about the human condition, really.
Yeah. Because when people start really seeing how their minds work, it's funny. I mean, it can be like, oh my gosh, but also like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know? And I think because of the love and the respect that Judy and I have for each other, people feel very safe with us. You know, that's one thing we offer when we talk with potential clients and we offer a free session. We very often, you know, people tell us how comfortable they feel with us and they feel safe. And I think that has a lot to do with our relationship, how comfortable we are. We talk about our experiences as a couple, and people can really relate to that and enjoy it.
So does that answer your question, Harry?
Well, it's a beautiful introduction. And maybe you could give an example, you know, in your work of how that plays out a little bit to give the listeners a little bit of a story.
Well, I could give you a very dramatic story. It doesn't involve both of us, but for me, it's an example of how humor can be so transformational. And I used to work in a crisis center at County Mental Health here in Oregon, and I had people would just come in off the street because they were in crisis. And this one gentleman came in and he was clearly distressed. He was disheveled. He was dirty. He was very unhappy. And they asked me to see him. So he came into my office, and well, when I saw him, I thought, because he had he's like, looked really unhappy. He had a scowl on his face. He was quite large, man. And I immediately thought, oh dear, what am I in for, right? And so anyway, he came into the office and sat down. And one of the things that I had to do with all the people that came in was to do an assessment, what they call a risk assessment, to find out, you know, what their history had been with suicide and or, you know, any kind of self-harming behavior. And so I asked him, I said, have you ever tried to commit suicide? And he said, yes, I've tried it 20 times. And for who knows why, but quite unmeditatedly, what came out of my mouth was, well, I guess it didn't work out so well for you. And we both started laughing. It was so ridiculous, you know, it's like he saw the ridiculousness of it. And it was just this incredible connection of our human experience, our human condition. And he came in about a week later. He, honest to God, looked totally different. He had bathed, he had washed his hair, he had a smile on his face. I mean, I couldn't believe this was the same person. So I think that it's a really good example of how we can connect with people on the level of that very ordinary, common sort of human experience and laugh about it. I mean, who would ever laugh about suicide? But he laughed at the ridiculousness of having tried 20 times and not succeeded. So anyway, it's just an example, but we often have these kinds of experiences with clients where they'll kind of see, oh, wow, that was really ridiculous how much I was caught up in a particular way of thinking, right?
Well, I think of, we were working with a couple who were working, they came in and they're like, okay, on January 1st, we both want to stop drinking. That's it, and so we're like, well, maybe it doesn't have to be held quite so tightly. And so we were working with them, and maybe like the third or fourth time we were seeing them, and one of them was like, man, it just feels like this is hard. Like, how are we going to be able to turn this ship around? It's like, it's such a huge ship. How are we going to turn this ship around? And I said a little something, and then I said, and there is no ship. And she just burst out laughing, like in a moment. It was kind of like just seeing, like, I've just created this huge idea of like how big the ship is and how hard it is going to be to turn it around. And we're just like in a moment, like there is no ship. Just like something just happened and it just broke that strong idea that she had. And it was great. And we just laughed and laughed and laughed. It was fantastic.
You bring up a really solid point. The addiction is treated as a very heavy subject by the people who are involved in it. And
Yes.
What you're talking about is really the first tip that people who are working in the field have to understand. If you stick on the serious level, it's going to be a serious discussion. You lift the level up into a lighter feeling. And that was exactly my experience going into a recovery center, which I worked in for 3 years, was the first thing I would often have to say was, lighten up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, we can't possibly have a good time while we're in this heavy, serious feeling. And that's one of the things that the 3 principles does emphasize, is that it's not a serious topic. And as Greg and I have been talking recently, it's always the same cause anyway. So,
Right.
so whatever the circumstances of it are, it doesn't matter. But in the lightness, in the feelings that the 2 of you are emanating out, that's the teaching. That's actually the gift. And the words, well, we all have the words, but they're not the answer. The feeling that you guys are talking about, that light, and also that feeling you have together, people can relate to it. And
Well, and often the words are inadequate. I mean,
yeah, almost always, right?
It's like, I often find that we can get very sort of caught up in the explanation, and a lot of times that it doesn't really work. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. It's like bringing ourselves to the client, to the work that we're doing together, and just as human beings, really. I mean, we're just human beings having a conversation, right? Yeah. And that conversation can go so many different places. And in our experience, for whatever reason, humor often comes into that.
I just wanted to say my name's Timothy, and I agree. Words are so weak because the same word means so many different things to many different people. And that's all I'll say.
That's
Great.
the truth.
Thank you.
Thanks, Timothy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And life is far too important to take it seriously.
That's the truth.
Oh my God. That's good. That's good stuff, Greg.
But it's true. I mean, when you're serious about things, how does it make you feel? There's a tension.
Exactly.
There's you feel constricted, like things are closed off. You know,
Right.
so the seriousness doesn't really help anything. You're not expressing anything. There's no flow. You know, there needs
Yeah.
to be that natural flow of that. You know, we talk, the principles are pointing at that flow of energy. And that's
Yes.
something that we hardly ever really talk about, is that flow. And we need to stay in the flow. When you're in the flow is when things happen. It's when life just, it's not that things are easy, but things happen. You know, it's like the work that I put in pays off more. If you know what I mean, just the rewards are so much greater when you're in that flow. But then you step outside because it's time to get serious. And this is something a lot of people do when they go to work. They put on their work persona. So they're going through the entire day being serious and being real. I'm a professional. I'm wearing a tie. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And there's this change in mentality, and it's actually the main reason why most people are so tired after work. It's in a lot of cases not the work itself. It's just that energy that we're having to put out there because we're no longer in the flow. We're pretending to be somebody we're not. We're not being authentic. And that's what you're talking about when you sit down with your clients, with people you're working with. You're just being genuine and authentic, and that's what
And
people
that's
need.
rare. That's so rare, and I love it. But continue.
Yeah, when we ourselves are being genuine and authentic, it makes it easier for other people to be that way.
Yeah. And really more and more and more, it's for me anyhow, in working with people and, you know, sitting with people, it really is just a conversation. You know, it's not like we have something really important to, you know, to give to you, and I hope you're ready to receive it. You know,
Hey, real quick, I feel like just to acknowledge somebody, like to give somebody else 5 minutes of your undivided attention is rare these days. And I mean, it's a practice I like to do. Why? Just because I realize, you know, looking at it from my perspective, I would appreciate somebody giving me 5 minutes of their time. So I'll do the same for them. That's all I'll say.
yeah, for people to
Absolutely.
really feel listened to, you know, really heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so important.
Well, and because, I mean, the thoughts that go through our head, I mean, we all know from the principles, are not us. It's like they're thoughts that go through our heads. And so if we're going to, you know, it's like we get really serious around the thoughts that go through our heads, you know, and it's like, that's not the direction in my way of seeing it. And if we can, anything that allows us to relax and see, okay, it's just momentary experience, thought moving through. And that's it right there. I mean, it really is that simple. And I think humor really helps us to see, you know, to realize, oh, you know, this isn't really real in a way. It's just something moving through my experience. And I think humor does help that a great deal.
Yeah, like, all right, real quick, I know but I was feeling sorry for myself with this COVID-19 broken arm living in my car. But I finally realized that regardless of my situation, I am blessed and highly favored. You know what I'm saying? I just appreciate everything a little more than I used to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm like, I'm not feeling sorry for myself right now. I feel like really good about myself right now. So, I mean, I'll just stop at that.
You're looking at the right thing, gratitude for what you have. Of course, on the outside, it looks not so rosy, but you're seeing what we all have to come to, the gratitude of what we have rather than what we do not have. And
Yes, definitely.
in that feeling of gratitude, I guarantee you, because that's the science, it will automatically lead you to more positive expressions of life. It has to, because you're feeling positive. But you're not just saying, I am positive, you're feeling gratitude for what God or mind or whatever.
Oh, dude, finally. I'm totally with, like, yeah, the 11th time hitting in the head with a hammer. I'm thinking this is it. You know what I'm saying? Gratitude and like all that. So,
And time is irrelevant. That's a tricky one for people who are impatient with change, but it's irrelevant.
It doesn't exist,
Eh,
except that we've created it to just explain the passage of what looks like time. Time
Sure.
is just, yeah, it's a figurative thing.
time is an idea, exactly.
The only thing that keeps us from having the experience that we desire is our own beliefs that we're not there. Because we're already there. We're already having the experience we desire. We've just covered it up with these lenses that make it look like something else.
Yep, like I don't
That's it.
belong, or they're already, you know, they're all friends. I don't belong, from my experience. Yeah, I feel it.
But you know what? That's okay. We're not supposed to be friends with everybody in the world. We can be friendly with everybody in the world, but we're not supposed to be friends with everybody. You can't do that. You can't possibly maintain a relationship with that many people. So find the people that are your people. Find the people that you resonate with and that you connect with, and hang out with those people, and don't worry about the rest. Let them hang out with their people they resonate with. That's the beauty of
Hey.
life. There's a flow to it. Find your
Hey,
flow.
Greg.
Be a part of it.
I feel it. Hey, Greg, let's hang out soon, sometime, if you're able.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get together
There
this
you
week.
go.
Send me a message.
I will, for sure. For sure. I appreciate, hey, just one last thing. I'm not sure what this topic is about, but I mean, I feel like I'm pretty in line with it. So
Yeah,
that's all I'll say
cool.
for now.
This,
Well, I guess we probably will at some point talk about
Family members.
working with
maybe it's just a good time for you to introduce your company. We forgot to do that at the beginning, so people will get a feel for a little bit of some of the work that you do. Could you do that, please?
the name of our business is called Wise Caring, and that's that side of our business is specifically for family members
Family members
of substance abusers, addicts, whatever word you use. And when I've worked in the addictions field for about 40 years. And so a lot of my experience came out of, 12-step treatment, basically. And so what I saw when I was working in the field is that family members got very little attention in the addictions field. It was almost exclusively focused on the person who had the addiction.
Right.
And the family members, I mean, they would often, do some kind of a family program, sometimes one day, sometimes 3 days, but generally speaking, there wasn't a lot of attention given to family members. And I always found that really curious, because that the person who's addicted has to go back into that environment. And often the environment and their relationships can create a real challenge for them staying clean and sober. And so I really felt like when I finally retired from working at agencies and stuff, I decided I really wanted to create a private practice working with family members, and try to reach out to them in different ways that would allow them to get the support that they need. And so so Joy and I, because we both kind of got into the principles at the same time, and we eventually decided that we would work together and at least put a big part of our focus on family members, working with family members. And I think there's some particular challenges in working with family members, in that all of their thinking is about the addict. and so much of their focus.
Yeah, and it's
uh,
like one-sided. Like they don't know the addict's mind. I'm sorry to interrupt, but they don't know the addict's mind. And I totally appreciate what you're doing, Judy.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and so, you know, in the beginning, I was really thinking about, well, how do I share the principles with like, say, particularly parents who have a loved one who's addicted, because they actually don't think it's they have a problem. They think it's just the person who's using that has the problem. And so then it's really like, I mean, it's the same issue. It's not like it's different. They have thinking just like the rest of us have thinking. But to approach them so that they can actually see the thinking that they're having is I feel often contributing to the problem, because they don't see that they think they're responsible in some way for that person's addiction. And the other part is they're constantly doing things to try to get that person to change, thinking that they could actually get them to change. And so to begin to sort of unravel that for them, all the thinking that goes along with that, and at the same time honoring the fact that they're deeply concerned and deeply caring about this person that has an addiction. You know, it's kind of a dance, you know, because you really don't want to ever give them the impression that their caring isn't important and valid and natural and all of those things. So I think that there's a little bit different, I guess I would say, way of approaching this with them. That
A big shift. It's actually a big shift in approaching them, because it's not agreeing that with them that the problem is with the other person. It's their own relevance to their own reality, and they're confused and discouraged along with what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
And they're
so scared.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Can be so much fear, you know, understandably.
Mm-hmm.
And so to not negate, you know, what their experience is, but to really help them see how their experience is being created. And then, you know, when more and more of their own just natural wisdom comes online, instead of being driven by the, you know, the fear and the anxiety, but just when more natural wisdom comes online of like, oh, maybe this, maybe that, or let me just kind of look here and sit with that. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
huge difference.
Greg and I actually, I was helping a lady in Indianapolis. She had two heavily alcoholic sons, really had one in prison and one who in the emergency ward all the time. And we were talking, and all of a sudden her guilt left her, because she was feeling extremely guilty. She was blaming herself for their scenarios, and I suggested something, and all of a sudden she had an insight, and tears started coming down her eyes. And it's from that experience that Greg and I got together, because I saw that this medium was actually much more powerful and effective. But it always brought a closeness to my heart to what you're talking about, because in reality, and I've seen this over and over again, the person who's the parents or the caregiver or the support system is often suffering much more, because it just doesn't fit into their reality. Their reality, the American dream reality, is everything is perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
How does addiction fit into that dream? It doesn't. and it confuses them because they don't have a belief system to hold on to, and then they panic within that, and
Yeah.
and so on. So it's very, very nourishing. It's very much like a lawyer coming. So you go to a lawyer who has a divorce case. Is he supporting the person on a deeper level, or is he supporting you'll get more money if you fight type of thing? It's
Yeah.
very, very similar to that. And I can feel from what you're sharing how it's one of those not slippery slopes that aren't dealt with very adequately in the world of addiction, like many other issues, but this one especially, because we're dealing with
Yeah.
healthy, normal people who are disgruntled with what they're seeing.
Yeah, and I happen to think that family members get labeled a lot, and they get labeled as codependent. They get labeled as being enablers. Well, in my view, that's not helpful at all. They're not. That's not who they are. They're doing the best they can, given with what they know in the moment, just like the rest of us. And to pathologize their caring, no. To me, I just can't even tolerate that. Because they truly are. I mean, from where they're sitting, what they're trying to do, they think is going to help.
And they feel it's life and death.
Yep.
And of course they're going to do everything they can.
So to really acknowledge, my feeling has always been, I want to acknowledge their strength, their caring, the fact that they hang in there for many times a very long period of time with this person who's afflicted with addiction. And that, to me, in my book, they're heroes. You know, and so courageous and so really dedicated to helping their children, their spouses, whoever, recover. And that doesn't get said very often. And I think it's really, for me, it's very sad that it doesn't get said. So then, you know, our job is to try to share with them this understanding of the three principles so that they can actually have, you know, some of the suffering can clear away so that they can start to see things differently for themselves, and therefore perhaps have different ways of approaching their loved one. So that's my wish for them.
It makes me think we spoke with a woman last week whose son was going through addiction and was kind of in a crisis. And she was trying to, when we talked with her, she was trying to figure out, well, what do I need to do? I'm being told I should let him come home, but I really don't want to. And, there's another option that I could do, or I could do nothing. And, she was just feeling so incredibly overwhelmed. And we just kept pointing her back to that she actually probably did know what was really best. And Judy was asking her questions, and she totally knew what was best, but she had so many thoughts about, oh, well, his therapist said I should let him come home. And, but she totally knew what was really right for her and for him in the moment. And when she was able to kind of clear away some of all of that overwhelm and the thinking, it was very clear to her what her next step was. It was beautiful.
Once the distraught thoughts quiet down, the rest is taken care of. But while it's raging in our consciousness, it of course controls what we see. But the once it
Yeah.
quiets down, it's actually a gift. It's like a difficult situation that has an answer.
Yeah. Well, and not making anybody wrong at all. In other words, yeah, she didn't see the solution immediately. She didn't know what to do. She had a lot of feelings of responsibility and self-blame and
Self-doubt.
and all of that.
Yeah.
And just to hold her in that and just say, it's not true. You're not to blame. You're doing the best that you can. Those kinds of responses help to calm a person. It's like, you're okay. There's nothing, you haven't done anything wrong at all. We're just here to see if we can see more clearly what might be possible, when you allow yourself to just sort of calm, relax in the moment, take your mind off of your thinking and just be here with us, and let's just have a conversation. So, and these people need that so desperately. They need to be told they have not done anything wrong.
And that goes along with what we were talking about earlier with not being so serious. Because if I'm in the position of, trying to help somebody and I'm being serious about it, what's that telling them? It's telling them that their condition that they believe they have is serious.
Right.
But it's
Exactly.
really not. It just takes a simple shift in perspective. It's like if you
Yes.
accidentally put your glasses on upside down and everything looked all weird, and all I did was come up and say, all you got to do is just turn it this way. It's really that simple. It's not easy all the time, but it's simple. It's a simple change of perception.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And what I notice as well is we have two very nurturing women expressing this feeling. So the words, we all have those words, that you just expressed, but with the tenderness and nurturing quality of it, it naturally brings a feeling into the person, because that's their natural birthright. That's who they
Yes.
are. So we all like love. And when you can feel that nurturing feeling, male or female, by the way, but in this case, naturally, two women who are doing this, and two is more than one, no matter what anyone says. It's more than one. And it's powerful. It has a powerful elixir effect on people. No matter how troubled you are, if your mother comes and cradles you, probably going to enjoy the cookie a lot more.
Definitely.
Those are the best cookies. Just saying, those are the tastiest cookies ever.
Especially if it has chocolate chip in it. Yeah.
I wonder if anyone else who's here has, anything to add or question or anything. We'd love to hear from.
Yeah, my name's Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. So my question is, I am in an AA program, and I get a little lost because, I grew up with also an alcoholic family. So I get lost in not staying in the moment. Well, I got to go to an AA meeting, then I got to go to an ACA meeting. So it's hard to, and then I get all these beliefs about myself. And I know, listening to you, I get it, but it seems like sometimes when I get off the meeting, this particular meeting, then I kind of fall back into, and I do feel like the program has helped me because I've gotten clean and all that. So, but that's where I feel it's kind of hard sometimes. Once I get off a meeting that like this, it's pretty authentic. then I get back into self. And anyway, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of jumbled, but just being authentic, it's kind of gets hard sometimes in the meetings, you know, and plus they're huge now, the Zoom meetings. So, but anyway, yeah, but that's it. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, you know, I don't know. I guess I'll respond.
Yeah.
I would say that happens to all of us. In
Yes.
other you know, we go in and out of feeling clear and feeling, you know, more peace and contentment. And, you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think often we think that we shouldn't go back into our thinking or go back into some feeling that, you know, we don't like or is unpleasant or whatever. And it's kind of a natural part of being a human for that to happen. And you know, I guess, you know, the phrase that always often comes to me is what Sid said, which is if we weren't afraid of our feelings, it would change the world. And that's, you know,
that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the essential thing that we're really talking about here, because we are all, you know, no matter how far along you are in this understanding, you're still going to have feelings that come up, and you're going to have, you know, those natural human feelings, be they, you know, anger or sadness or depression or, you know, joy or whatever. They're gonna be with us for a while, and then it's gonna change, right?
Yeah, right.
And you see that, oh, that's okay. These are just feelings. They're gonna pass. Then, you know, it takes away the thing like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling.
Yeah.
You know,
Keeps you stuck where you're at.
Yeah.
I know for me, when I kind of really saw that, like, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
There was actually such freedom in that, to not have these thoughts of like, oh, well, I'm not there right now, so I've lost it. It's gone. It's, you know.
Exactly.
But like, oh, okay, you know, I'm not there, whatever there means or whatever there is. It's another idea, you know, another idea of mine, like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Well, where's that? You know? But it's like, sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. There's like a grace in that, you know, is my experience. Like, oh, okay, in this moment, I see that I'm not seeing it. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, like beating myself, I'm not seeing it. I should see it. Why aren't I seeing it? You know, it's just like, oh, okay, in this moment, you know, I'm not, no big deal. I'm human. You know, it's just this is just what a mind does, you know? So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you will, Mary, see it clearer and clearer, because it's a question that only you can answer.
Yes.
So you will see, that's the beauty of what they're sharing, is you will start to see it clearer and clearer. You're honest with yourself. I am not, but it will reveal itself in a clear way. The reason we know it is because it's the working science, and that's what's happening in our life. Judy and Joy are seeing clearer and clearer. And yes, sometimes the water is muddied, you know, but they're seeing clearer and clearer. Harry's is the same. Greg is the same. And pickles and goo is the same.
And it's also really great to stay in the conversation. You know, we're blessed to have so much online right now that you can listen to, or
hey, I agree. Pickles and goo here. Sorry to interrupt.
You know, it's so, you know, I know that I still find it really great to stay in the conversation and to listen to things and be supported in that way. And it's kind of like Harry was saying, it's kind of the more you see it, the more you see it. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it is. I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Good question, Mary. Good question.
Yeah. Anyone else want to ask a question or?
Or just share
Yeah.
your experience.
Truthfully, I missed the last couple minutes of the video, but I'm grateful to have Greg in my life and just for him to be like the introduction to the three principles. And yeah, just hopefully continue to learn and grow. Like, I'm not perfect. I don't plan on being, but it's a good thing because I'll continue to grow.
That's
And
right.
I don't want to stop growing. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Never ever any end to, it's kind of like, okay, I'm there now. I've got it. No, that's the beauty.
Yeah, when you think you've got it, you start like weeding people out. And I feel like seriously that we're meant to be like interconnected and all that. Just have a community of all our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true.
And Tim, it's tricky. Once you jump a level of consciousness, it's generally best just to keep it to yourself. Because as you say, you don't have the trappings of stuff. There's a lot of people out there who have a lot of trappings and are very successful. And anything they say, people worship, but they're not saying anything. The difference is when you jump in a level of consciousness, you actually are sharing something of substance.
Just by your actions, I feel like, because actions speak louder than words. I mean, paraphrase, whatever.
Yeah.
And there doesn't have to be a regimented form that's acceptable to the world. And, you know, we can see the strength of these two, Judy and Joy, coming together.
Oh, yeah.
Caring more for the purity of the principles rather than the look of that they should have. And I'm just using that as an image.
I like to call it politics. It's all politics.
I know I'm having a bad hair day, Mary.
Mine is the same.
I haven't been able to get a harecut.
I have a fantastic hair day every day. It's just mostly gone.
I know what to cut out in the podcast I make, so that's good.
Yeah, just keep this part about the hair. Everything else we could just get rid of.
Yeah.
It's all too serious anyway.
That's right.
Maybe you guys could talk about what it feels like working as a team and what it brings to the situation.
Sure. Go ahead.
Well, I love working with Judy, for so many different reasons. We're very different. Our minds work very differently.
What a surprise, eh?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. But so there's certain things that she can speak to people about so well. Like I don't have those experiences of like anxiety, extreme anxiety. I've never had like a panic attack or anything like that, but Judy has. And so she can really kind of speak to folks about that and about what her experience has been, through the principles of seeing so much more clearly of what's actually happening. And then there's certain areas that because of how my mind works and, the kind of patterns that had been set up, that there's things that I can speak about and really connect with people on. And so that's just so helpful. And And then Judy's breadth of experience, you know, has just been fantastic for me to learn, because I've been coaching for a few years, but of course, you know, Judy's been working with people for 40 years, so I learned so much from her. And yeah, it's a really good flow, because it is a conversation. So sometimes she's talking, sometimes I'm talking, clients talking. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think that, you know, like Joy said, we each bring something different. And I happen to have what I would call a very philosophical mind. And so often I will speak about things from, I guess, more of a philosophical point of view. Um, and Joy, I feel like Joy is such an incredibly nurturing, warm, authentic person, that she brings a lot of the, in some ways, she brings more of the mothering energy than I do. And I mean, I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's where this mind goes. And so I feel like, because we each come at it, you know, we each come from a little bit different perspective in terms of the way our minds think. That difference is very helpful to people, because I can say one thing and the client may not relate to the way I've explained it. And then Joy will explain it or say something and they do relate to it, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And because we have a great deal of respect and love for one another, it's not a problem. Mm-hmm. So we really feel like we complement one another. We're very at ease with one another, and at ease. We're generally very at ease with people, period. Mm-hmm. And we really truly enjoy. I mean, we just enjoy people. I mean, that's just it right there. And so, yeah, I think that I think we make a good team. Yeah. And people really seem to appreciate the fact that we work with them together. We didn't know whether that would be the case when we started out, but seems to be, at least from the feedback we've gotten from people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's both working.
To make another trip or whatever.
Left this shit on our
Sir, what was?
Didn't hear that.
I think he was talking to someone else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's whether we're talking with people kind of, you know, one-on-one, two-on-one, or also when we have groups, you know, because we'll offer like webinars or day-longs and that type of thing. And again, people always—
Wait, I have a water right in my car, unopened.
Yeah, people will always say that they really enjoy the two of us working with and off of each other.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, it's great not to have to work alone all the time, because as a counselor or a therapist or whatever, you work alone. That's the way most people do. They work alone. And I find it really supportive and refreshing and, you know, great to have a partner to do this with. So yeah, it's that too, you know. Yeah.
That's obviously true. I mean, two people automatically are going to come from perspectives that are different. But if the love is there between the two of them, or the word I like is harmony, with the harmony is there between the two people, then it doesn't really matter where you go or who says what. What happens is there's a broader perspective. And as you noticed, sometimes Judy hits and sometimes Joy hits or connects with the person. And generally speaking, both will connect in different ways. And that alludes to the multifaceted aspect of the person. They're coming in with a problem. So theoretically, we're psychological explainers of how thought works. But in reality, that's not true. In reality, they are multidimensional, and they are asking, they want to also understand their relationship to mind, their relation, how does it work as a totality together, as a unity, and how do I relate to that? So you start, you need a starting point, but and that generally is the psychological, but it evolves depending on the philosophical approaches of the union between the two people. And that's very, very powerful, because that's what Sid was talking about.
Yeah.
He wasn't talking about, let's solve an addiction problem. He was talking, let the person experience their own spiritual birthright.
Yes.
They'll know what to do.
All right.
Yeah.
Very well said, Harry.
Yeah.
Very well
Yeah,
said.
beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, that was very well said. I feel like this is Mary again. I just wanted to say that one thing about the meeting, I can't always remember what you said, but I know how I feel when I leave the meeting. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of beyond, I know it's beyond words. I've heard Sid talk before, and like I would leave the meeting and he would say so many things, and then somebody would ask me, well, what did he say? I don't know, but I knew, you know, I felt good, and I didn't really even question it, because I just felt good, you know? So that's how I feel when I'm at this meeting. I don't know particularly what people say, but I know that it does help me a lot to feel better. And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful.
That's the ticket.
And that's why we do the show.
But the thing to remember, though, is that feeling that you're getting is you.
Yes.
That's not coming from us. That is you. We're just pointing you to it. That's all that's really happening.
Yeah, that's true. But it just, right now, I just feel like when I'm at this meeting, I think, oh my God, what did they do? Did they give me something?
And you can, the thing is, you can feel that way at any point in time.
That's true.
You know,
That's
that was what Sid always talked about, is get that, you know, when you get that feeling, keep that. Forget the words.
Yes.
The words don't matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If it wasn't in you, you couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought it was funny the first time I heard that one recording of his where he says, you know, if you're basically, I'm paraphrasing, if you're listening to this tape and you're driving in your car, you're listening to this tape and you get a great feeling, take the tape and throw it out the window and keep the feeling.
Yes.
Like, he had such a great sense of humor about it. Again, not taking it seriously, you know?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So maybe we can wrap it up then. Would you guys like to say a final little thank you and etc.?
Sure. Well, this has been delightful.
Yeah,
Thank
been
you so
great.
much for having us on, and just giving us the opportunity to share and talk a little bit about family, you know, working with family members and how important that is.
Yeah.
And
And I just wanted to say you can go to www.wisecaring.com. We also have kind of an umbrella of real change mentoring, because we also work with people in other ways. You know, we don't just work with family members. So real change mentoring is kind of the umbrella, and Wise Caring is there at the website also. So we have some videos there and some different things. So folks are welcome to go there if they'd like, find out more.
Thank you.
Awesome. That's great.
thanks so much.
Yeah,
Really
thank you both so much for joining us today. This has been,
Yes, thank you.
Thanks,
been
everybody.
really enjoyable.
Yes,
Everyone
really
have a great day.
enjoyable. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.